Close your eyes for just a breath. Imagine reality itself, folding, stretching, twisting like a mirror that never ends. What if I told you that consciousness isn't just inside your mind, but woven into the very fabric of existence itself? Welcome, dreamer, to Mind Peace. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. Before we dive into this vast ocean of thought, I'd love for you to take a second to subscribe, like, and share. Because together, we're building a sanctuary for ideas, where curiosity can drift freely and peacefully. Tonight, we'll journey deep into the mind-bending reality of consciousness itself. We'll explore where science meets mystery, where neurons spark like galaxies, and where ancient philosophies whisper their truths alongside cutting-edge physics. You'll discover how your thoughts may ripple across the universe, how dreams may not be illusions but hidden doorways, and why the very act of being aware is one of the greatest enigmas of all time. By the end, you may never see your mind or reality the same way again. So, settle in, dim the noise of the world, and let's wander into the infinite labyrinth of consciousness. The origins of awareness. Imagine the very first flicker of awareness, like a spark in endless darkness. Somewhere, long before you and I, before language, before memory, before the universe even had stars, there might have been the seed of something that would one day grow into consciousness. Scientists tell us that life itself began as chemistry, molecules bumping, colliding, bonding. Yet even in those earliest moments, something invisible was preparing to awaken, the ability to notice. Think about it, a single-cell organism sensing light, turning toward warmth, or recoiling from danger. Was that not a kind of awareness? A primitive whisper of what would one day become human thought. To sense, to react, to differentiate between this and that, these are the roots of awareness. They may seem small, but they are the foundations of the cathedral we now call consciousness. And as the universe expanded, so did the intricacy of minds. From the branching neural webs of jellyfish to the songlines of birds, life was sculpting vessels to hold greater and greater depths of perception. Awareness was not just a random accident. It seemed to evolve as if the universe itself was desperate to see itself. But here is the paradox. Awareness has no shape, no weight, no shadow. You cannot touch it, and yet it defines everything you experience. It's the silent witness behind every thought. The one thing that remains constant even as the body changes, even as the world shifts around you. Now let me take you deeper. What if awareness didn't start with life? What if it's older than matter, older than time? Ancient philosophies, from Vedanta to Taoist mysticism, have suggested that consciousness is not an effect of the universe. It is its foundation. Imagine awareness as the canvas, and the universe as the painting upon it. Without the canvas, the painting could not exist. Modern physics, strangely enough, begins to echo this. Quantum mechanics shows us that the act of observation changes reality itself. Particles seem undecided until they are seen. Does this mean that awareness is not simply a byproduct of matter, but rather the very force that collapses potential into existence? In other words, does reality exist at all without a witness? Close your eyes for a moment. Notice that you are noticing. That infinite loop, awareness watching itself, may just be the most profound phenomenon in the cosmos. It is the source, the seed, the eternal spark that has followed us since the dawn of time. And tonight, as we step further into this labyrinth, we'll uncover how this spark grew into the bonfire of thought, imagination, and reality itself. Because if we understand the origins of awareness, we begin to understand the secret language of existence. The illusion of separation. When you look out into the world, it feels as though you are here, inside your body, and everything else is out there. Trees, stars, oceans, people, even your own thoughts arranged like objects in a vast gallery. This is the illusion of separation. The trick of consciousness that convinces us we are small, isolated islands drifting in an endless sea. But what if that's not true? What if the boundaries you feel between yourself and the world are far thinner than they seem? Let's begin with the simple act of breathing, the air you inhale this very second. Oxygen crafted in the fiery furnaces of ancient stars becomes part of your blood, your cells, your very awareness. And the breath you release will carry particles that one day drift into the lungs of another. Where then do you end and the universe begin? Consciousness may whisper the answer, there is no border at all. Neuroscience tells us that the brain does not passively receive the world. It creates it. Every sight, sound, and sensation you think is out there is actually a shimmering image painted inside your mind. The stars you see at night? They are photons translated into electric impulses, reassembled into a cosmic tapestry that exists only within you. In a very real sense, the universe you know lives entirely in your consciousness. It has never been separate from you, and yet consciousness doesn't merely reflect, it shapes. When you fall in love, the world itself seems brighter, softer. When grief consumes you, even sunlight feels heavy. Your state of mind colors reality, bending it to its emotional gravity. This is the illusion of separation unraveling, the recognition that what you feel and what you see are one. Ancient traditions have long carried this truth. In Buddhism, they speak of interbeing, the idea that nothing exists on its own, but only through everything else. A tree cannot exist without rain, soil, sun, air, all of which cannot exist without galaxies, stars, oceans, and time. And you, listening now, are no different. You are not a separate fragment. You are a note in a cosmic symphony. Even physics seems to hum along to this tune. Entangled particles, separated by light years, somehow remain connected, instantaneously aware of each other's state, as though distance were an illusion. If the fundamental building blocks of reality are not separate, then perhaps our minds too are threads in a single, woven consciousness. The illusion of separation is comforting. It makes us feel distinct, individual, unique, but it is also the root of loneliness, fear, and conflict. When we begin to dissolve this illusion, when we see that consciousness is not confined to me or you, but is a field that flows through all things, something shifts. Loneliness fades, fear lightens, and life begins to feel less like a battle against the universe and more like a dance within it. So, ask yourself, what would change in your life if you truly believed you were not separate, but seamlessly connected to everything around you? Perhaps consciousness has always been trying to show us this truth, if only we dare to look past the veil. Dreams as portals to deeper consciousness. Close your eyes, and you drift into another world. A world where the rules of physics bend, where time folds in on itself, where people who no longer live can stand before you as vividly as they once did. We call this world a dream, and yet, what if dreams are not illusions at all, but doorways, portals into deeper layers of consciousness that stretch far beyond waking life? Think of it. Every night, without fail, you surrender your waking self. You close your eyes, let go of the day, and dissolve into a realm that feels both alien and intimate. Scientists might call it a cascade of electrical patterns, neurons firing in bursts, memories stitched into strange mosaics. But when you are inside a dream, do you not feel the reality of it? Do you not feel the ground beneath your feet, the presence of others, the unshakable sense that this too is real? Some philosophers suggest that dreams are the original theatre of consciousness, older even than language. Long before we spoke, we dreamed. Ancient shamans saw dreams as journeys of the soul, where the spirit could leave the body, gather knowledge, even heal. In some cultures, the dream world was considered the real one, and waking life the pale imitation. Modern science tries to tame this mystery. It tells us REM sleep is the brain's way of processing, filing, and cleaning memories. Yet even neuroscience admits there is something deeper. Dreamers have solved equations in their sleep, written music, painted visions. Paul McCartney once awoke with the melody of Yesterday fully formed from a dream. Dmitri Mendeleev glimpsed the structure of the periodic table in his sleep. Consciousness, in the dream state, seems capable of reaching into a well of knowledge untouched by the waking mind. But the greatest mystery of dreams may be this. They show us how fragile the line between realities truly is. One moment you are in a dream, believing it utterly, and the next you awaken, realizing it was all a construct of your mind. Yet how different is waking life? Here too, the brain assembles sights, sounds, and sensations into a convincing stage. Could it be that waking and dreaming are not opposites, but layers of the same endless consciousness? Lucid dreams, those shimmering nights when you become aware that you are dreaming, offer a glimpse into this possibility. In them, You can shape landscapes, fly across galaxies, speak with lost loved ones, or confront your deepest fears. To wake within the dream is to realize that reality is not fixed, but pliable, an insight that can ripple back into waking life itself. And what of the dreams that feel prophetic? The ones that seem to whisper truths before they arrive? Are they coincidences or proof that consciousness moves beyond time, reaching ahead to pluck moments before they unfold? Science cannot explain it fully, yet countless stories persist. Dreams that warn of accidents, reveal answers, or reconnect us with those we thought gone forever. Dreams, then, may not be random static. They may be messages from the deeper self, or even fragments of a shared field of awareness. Each night, as you close your eyes, you are not shutting out the world. You are opening a hidden door into another chamber of consciousness. So when you next awaken, remember this: your dreams are not throwaways of the mind. They are portals, and perhaps if you listen closely, they may show you that the boundary between waking and dreaming has never been solid at all. The mirror of inner worlds. When you gaze into a mirror, you see yourself, or so you think, a reflection of flesh and bone, eyes that have carried you through countless dawns and dusks, the familiar expression of a being who has lived, suffered, dreamed, and survived. But consciousness has its own mirror, one not made of glass or polished silver. This mirror is made of your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. It reflects not what you look like, but what you are inside. And perhaps, most profoundly, it reflects what the universe itself is. For centuries, sages and scientists alike have wrestled with the same haunting question: does the mind create reality, or does reality shape the mind? It is a chicken and egg riddle that stretches across time. To many spiritual traditions, the answer is clear. The world you perceive is nothing more than a mirror of your inner state. A restless mind sees a restless world. A peaceful heart encounters harmony wherever it wanders. But let us wander deeper. Picture a stormy sea. The waves crash violently, winds howl, the surface is chaos. Yet dive beneath the surface, and you find calm, silence, stillness. Consciousness works the same way. On the surface of thought, there is noise, worry, longing, chatter. But beneath lies an ocean of still awareness that mirrors reality in its most pristine form. Meditation, prayer, or even simple silence allows us to dive under the crashing waves to glimpse this hidden mirror. Neuroscience offers an intriguing echo of this idea. Studies of perception reveal that the brain does not simply record the world, it predicts it. What you see, hear, and experience are heavily filtered by expectations, shaped by memory, painted over by emotion. The mind, in other words, projects itself outward, and what you perceive is as much a mirror of your inner state as it is of the so-called objective world. Two people may walk the same street, yet one sees danger in every shadow while another notices beauty in the play of light on bricks. Same street, different mirrors. The ancients put this into myth and metaphor. The Greeks spoke of Narcissus, lost in his reflection, unable to distinguish the mirror from reality. Eastern philosophies spoke of Maya, the great illusion that tricks us into believing the reflections of consciousness are the totality of existence. Yet they all hint at the same truth. We live inside the reflections our minds cast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how, when you are joyful, the entire world seems to bloom? The sky seems bluer, laughter flows more easily, even strangers appear kinder. And when you are burdened by sorrow, even the most radiant day feels grey and heavy. The world hasn't changed, you have. Reality has shifted its mask to match the mirror within you. Now imagine this principle extended beyond the personal to the collective. Entire cultures, entire civilizations may be shaped by the shared mirrors of consciousness they hold. Beliefs, myths, dreams, they create the architecture of cities, the rise and fall of empires, the moral codes that govern humanity. Consciousness, then, does not merely mirror reality, it sculpts it, shaping history itself. Modern physics whispers something startlingly similar. The observer effect in quantum mechanics tells us that particles do not settle into a definite state, until they are observed. Observation collapses possibility into reality. What is observation but a form of consciousness gazing into the mirror of the universe, pulling one reflection into existence while leaving infinite others behind? Perhaps the cosmos itself behaves like a dream, becoming real only when the mirror of awareness shines upon it. And what about the inner mirrors we resist looking into, the ones clouded with fear, shame, or memory? Jung called this the shadow, the part of ourselves we avoid, but which nonetheless shapes our world from the shadows. Consciousness does not deny these reflections, it demands we face them. For every hidden aspect of the self ignored becomes projected onto others, painting the world in distorted colors. To look into the inner mirror with honesty is to begin dissolving those distortions, allowing reality to reveal itself more clearly. Artists have always known this. A painting, a poem, a melody, all mirrors of their creator's inner world, polished until others can see themselves reflected within. That is the strange magic of consciousness. When we dare to hold up our inner mirrors, others recognize themselves in them. In this way, our private reflections weave into a shared reality, a tapestry of countless mirrored minds. But here lies the deepest mystery. If consciousness mirrors reality, does reality mirror consciousness in return? Could it be that the universe itself is aware, reflecting back to us our own awareness like a cosmic hall of mirrors? Panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is fundamental, present in all things, suggests exactly this. The rock, the river, the star, the cell, all glimmers of awareness reflecting one another endlessly. In such a view, you are not a mirror standing apart, but a single facet in an infinite mosaic of reflection. Sit with that thought. Every tree you pass, every animal that meets your eyes, every star above may be participating in this grand exchange of mirrors. Your consciousness gazes outward, and the cosmos gazes back, both shaping and reflecting in an eternal dance. And perhaps this is why silence feels so profound. When the inner chatter quiets, when the mirror is still, reality itself shines through more vividly. You feel less like a separate being looking into the world, and more like the world looking into itself through you. That is the secret hidden in the mirror of inner worlds. You are not simply reflecting reality, you are reality reflecting itself. So the next time you catch your own reflection, whether in a mirror or in the eyes of another, remember, you are not just looking at a surface. You are gazing into the boundless depths of consciousness, into a reflection that stretches beyond your body, beyond your life, into the very heart of existence itself. The ocean of collective mind. Imagine, for a moment, that your thoughts are not sealed within the skull, not locked behind bone and skin, but instead ripple outward like sound waves across water. Every idea, every emotion, every flicker of imagination, vibrations echoing into a vast sea that others too are immersed in. This is the ocean of the collective mind, a place where your consciousness is not alone but entangled, interwoven with countless others across space and time. Think of language. The words you speak are not truly your own. They existed before you, shaped by the mouths of ancestors, carried through generations, sculpted by culture, refined by need. When you open your lips to express yourself, you are drawing from the ocean, sending your ripple back into it. Your thoughts ride upon a shared current, a river of meaning that has flowed long before you and will continue long after. Dreams too may belong to this ocean. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a reservoir of archetypes, ancient images and stories that recur across cultures. The wise elder, the trickster, the hero's journey. Why do people across continents and centuries dream of the same symbols? Why do mythologies echo each other, whispering the same truths in different tongues? Perhaps because they rise from a common sea of mind that underlies us all. Now pause and consider the strange phenomenon of ideas arriving in multiple places at once. Newton and Leibniz inventing calculus in the same century. Darwin and Wallace conceiving evolution together. Countless inventions, theories, songs, and discoveries appear as if plucked simultaneously from the ether. Could this synchronicity suggest that ideas are not created by individuals, but discovered in the collective ocean of consciousness? That we, as thinkers, are more like divers, plunging into the same depths, each surfacing with treasures from a shared abyss. Even science begins to acknowledge this subtle ocean. Neural networks in the human brain, with billions of connections, behave remarkably like vast social networks between individuals. Ideas spread through groups much like electricity through neurons, pulses of thought firing across the synapses of society. Consciousness may not stop at the boundary of the skin. It may expand into every interaction, every shared glance, every story passed from one mind to another. And what of empathy? That astonishing capacity to feel what another feels. When you see a child cry, something inside you aches. When you hear laughter, a warmth rises within you. Mirror neurons, science says. Cells in your brain that light up as though you yourself were experiencing the joy or sorrow of another. Empathy may be the proof that the ocean of mind is real, that consciousness is not confined but shared, reflected across countless hearts. Now dive deeper into mystery. Have you ever thought of someone, only for them to call moments later? Have you ever sensed a loved one's distress without a word spoken? Skeptics dismiss it as coincidence, but across centuries, across cultures, stories of such connections abound. Perhaps beneath the surface of waking thought, minds are linked more intimately than we imagine. Perhaps the ocean of collective mind is not metaphor but reality. Ancient traditions believed so. The Aboriginal Dreamtime speaks of a timeless realm where all beings are interconnected, where the land, the ancestors, and the living form one consciousness. Hinduism speaks of Brahman, the ultimate reality in which all individual souls are but droplets of a greater sea. Even Christianity whispers of the body of Christ, many members but one spirit. Again and again, humanity circles the same truth. Beneath individuality, there is unity. What does this mean for you, sitting here now, listening? It means that every thought you cultivate is not yours alone. Hatred, greed, fear, they poison not just your mind, but the ocean we all share. Likewise, kindness, wonder, compassion, they ripple outward, touching shores you may never see. Your inner life is not private. It is a stone cast into the collective waters, its waves expanding infinitely. Modern physics gives us yet another metaphor. In quantum entanglement, two particles, no matter how far apart, remain mysteriously linked, their states instantly connected. What if consciousness behaves the same? What if every mind is entangled, each thought vibrating across the fabric of being, connecting us in ways invisible but undeniable? And if that is true, then perhaps loneliness itself is an illusion. You are never truly alone because your mind is part of a vast ocean of other minds. Every thought you think is already touching another. Every dream you dream is connected to the dreams of countless others. Consciousness, in this sense, is not a solitary spark, but a cosmic tide, surging endlessly, carrying us all. So the next time you sit in silence, imagine the stillness of an ocean at dawn. Beneath the calm, a teeming world moves, currents, waves, tides, life upon life. That is the ocean of the collective mind. And you right now are not a drop apart from it. You are the ocean itself, dreaming it is a drop. The observer and the observed, you are sitting here listening. A voice flows into your mind, images form, ideas ripple. And yet, even as this happens, there is something behind it all. Something watching, noticing. A silent witness, untouched by the storm of thoughts. Who is that? What is that? This is the ancient puzzle of the observer and the observed, the enigma that whispers at the very core of consciousness. At first glance, life feels simple. I am the one who sees. I am the one who thinks. I am the one who feels. But pause, who is this I? When you feel joy, you notice the joy. When you feel sorrow, you notice the sorrow. That noticing itself never changes. The body changes. The mind changes. Emotions rise and fall. But awareness, the observer, remains constant. It is like the sky. Clouds pass, storms rage, sunlight breaks through, but the sky itself is never burned or torn by what moves within it. Philosophers across centuries have wrestled with this riddle. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." But is thinking truly the foundation of self? If you can notice a thought, doesn't that mean you are not the thought itself, but the one observing it? In that case, perhaps it is not thinking that proves existence, but awareness. You are not the storm of thoughts. You are the clear sky in which they move. Modern neuroscience complicates this picture. It shows us that thoughts arise before we are even aware of them. Decisions, too, seem to form in the brain milliseconds before the conscious mind claims them. So who then is choosing? Who is observing? Are we puppets of hidden neural mechanisms with awareness arriving late to narrate the story? Or is consciousness itself the true stage upon which the brain plays its role? Quantum physics adds another strange reflection. In the double-slit experiment, particles behave differently depending on whether they are observed. Observation itself collapses probability into reality, but what is an observer? Is it the measuring device, the scientist, the act of awareness itself? If observation creates reality at the most fundamental level, then perhaps the observer is not merely a passive witness, but the very architect of existence. Let us return to the personal. You wake in the morning, thoughts rushing in, lists, memories, emotions. Yet behind them all is a presence, wordless, formless, simply aware. You are aware of the thoughts, aware of the sensations in your body, aware of the world. And when you dream, even then, there is something noticing the dream. That silent witness does not vanish when the dream dissolves. It continues, watching as one world fades and another arises. Some traditions call this the self, capital S. Others call it pure awareness, or the Atman, or the spirit. Whatever name, the essence is the same. You are not simply the contents of your mind, but the awareness in which those contents appear. This realization, if you let it sink in, can shatter the illusion of being a separate, fragile creature. For if awareness is the constant, then you are as vast as the universe, unbroken by birth or death, untouched by the flux of time. But here is the paradox. The observer cannot be observed. You can notice your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, even the world itself, but you cannot step outside awareness to look at it directly. It is like an eye trying to see itself, and yet this paradox is the doorway to mystery. It reveals that awareness is not an object in the world, but the very field in which the world arises. Jiddu Krishnamurti spoke often of this distinction. He urged us to look without the filter of the observer, to see without the distortion of thought, memory, and desire. For when the observer dissolves, what remains is pure perception, reality as it is, not as we project it to be. But perhaps even this distinction collapses. Perhaps the observer and the observed are not separate at all, but one and the same. Think of a mirror. You stand before it, you see your reflection. It feels as though there is a division. You here, the image there. Yet the reflection is not separate. It cannot exist without you. Consciousness is the same. The observer and the observed are not two. They are two sides of one movement, inseparable, endlessly reflecting each other. Science, philosophy, and spirituality all circle this mystery, never fully capturing it. For how can you describe the one who is describing? How can you measure the measurer? And yet, this paradox is not meant to be solved, but lived. To live as the observer is to recognize that you are not trapped within thoughts, not confined by the body, but the open space in which all experience flows. Imagine sitting beneath a tree, listening to the wind. Leaves rustle, birds sing, clouds drift. You notice them, but you do not need to hold them. They come, they go, and awareness remains. The same is true for every moment of life. Pain arrives, joy arrives, both pass, but the observer, your awareness, remains untouched. This realization is liberation, a freedom deeper than circumstance. And what of death? The body ceases, thoughts dissolve, memory fades. But if you are not the body, not the thoughts, not the memories, if you are the observer behind them, then perhaps you are not destroyed. Perhaps you return to the vast field of awareness from which all arises. In this way, the observer is eternal, and the observed, the shifting world of forms, is but its endless reflection. So next time you feel trapped in the storm of thought, pause. Step back into that silent witness. Notice that you are noticing. Feel the vastness of the observer that cannot be touched, harmed, or ended. For in that recognition lies the deepest truth. You are not just a fragment in the universe. You are the universe, aware of itself. The hidden threads that bind the cosmos. Close your eyes for a moment. and imagine the universe not as a cold, indifferent expanse of emptiness, but as a vast woven tapestry, its threads stretching across the void, unseen yet essential, binding stars to stars, worlds to worlds, and every living mind to the same silent loom. We often imagine the cosmos as separate pieces scattered through darkness, yet beneath appearances, there are invisible threads at play, delicate, unbroken lines that tie the galaxies to each other, that carry whispers of gravity, magnetism, and energy across unimaginable distances. What if I told you that you yourself are a thread in this web, that your heartbeat, your thoughts, even your quiet sighs at night, ripple into this woven pattern just as surely as the birth of a star? We are not observers peering into the fabric. We are fibers spun into it. Each action, each thought, each dream adds another glimmering filament to the universal weave. Let us drift deeper. Picture the vast galaxies spread like luminous islands in a black sea. From afar, they appear separate, but in truth, they are tethered together by strands of gravity, so faint to our eyes, yet strong enough to bind billions of suns into spirals and clusters. These invisible highways of force, called cosmic filaments, lace the universe with structure, drawing galaxies into rivers of light. When astronomers look at the grand scale, they see not chaos but a cosmic web, a lacework, a hidden pattern that reveals the universe is not scattered dust, but a living design. And the strange wonder does not stop at gravity. Magnetism too stretches its secret cords through space. Entire galaxies are wrapped in magnetic fields, unseen hands guiding charged particles like dancers across a stage. These forces carry energy across vast distances, threading together worlds we cannot yet reach, uniting them in ways we barely understand. But even beyond the scientific threads lies something more profound. Threads of meaning, of synchronicity, of spirit. Have you ever felt a sudden pull towards someone across a crowded room, as if an invisible string tightened between you both? Or felt a shiver when thinking of a distant loved one, only to receive their message at that very moment? These are the whispers of hidden threads, the subtle connections that remind us the universe is more intimate than it seems. In ancient traditions, this concept was not foreign. The Stoics spoke of the Logos, the order that binds all things. Hindu philosophy imagined the cosmos as Indra's net, a vast lattice of jewels, each reflecting all others, symbolizing the interconnection of existence. Even quantum physics, our modern language of the unseen, reveals entanglement. Particles that remain mysteriously connected across distances, behaving as if linked by invisible cords outside of time and space. The deeper you think about these connections, the harder it becomes to believe in true isolation. No planet drifts alone, no star burns in solitude, no thought passes into the void without touching the web. We are stitched into this grand design, whether we are aware of it or not. And perhaps this awareness brings a kind of peace. When loneliness creeps in, when life feels cut adrift, remember, you are part of this hidden fabric. Your presence is not an accident. It is a vital thread in the universal weave. Without you, the pattern would not be the same. The universe would lose a shimmer, a vibration, a resonance that only you could give. So tonight, as you let your body sink into stillness, imagine yourself floating on these threads. Feel them wrap gently around you, not as chains, but as silk, soft and unbreakable, tying you to every star, every tree, every being who has ever looked at the night sky. You are not drifting alone through an abyss. You are suspended in a net of connection, an infinite fabric spun by the cosmos itself. Breathe with it. Let the rhythm of the threads match your heartbeat. Let your breath become another ripple traveling outward, felt across the unseen strands. Somewhere, perhaps light years away, perhaps within someone's dream, your ripple will be received, your presence acknowledged. For in this woven universe, no gesture is wasted, no sound unheard, no soul unseen. And as you drift further into this thought, notice how the threads hum, silent to the ear, but clear to the inner mind. They sing of unity, of belonging, of a great design that stretches past galaxies and time itself. It is not an echo of emptiness, but a lullaby of connection. And that lullaby, dear listener, is yours. The silent symphony of the stars. Imagine the night sky as more than a scatter of glowing dots, more than distant fires burning in the cold. Imagine it as a vast orchestra, one that does not play with violins or flutes, but with light, gravity, and silence. Each star is an instrument, each galaxy a section of the ensemble, and the cosmos itself, the grand conductor, raises no baton, yet the music flows endlessly. We cannot hear it with our ears. The notes are not vibrations in air, but in time, in space itself. Still, the song is there, hidden beneath the stillness. If you could stretch your senses wide enough, you would hear the thrum of neutron stars spinning like celestial drums, pounding their rhythm across the fabric of space-time. You would feel the deep bass of black holes, their gravitational waves rolling outward like slow, endless timpani. You would sense the gentle high notes of starlight, whispering across billions of years to finally reach your eyes. And perhaps, most astonishing of all, you would realize that you too are part of this performance. Your body, your mind, your every atom is made of matter that once vibrated inside ancient stars. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, all of it was composed in stellar forges, released in cosmic explosions, then gathered again into you. When you take a breath, when your heart beats, when your thoughts ripple through your mind, you are continuing the song the stars began. Let us slow down here. Let us sit within this thought. The stars above are not distant strangers. They are ancestors. They are the origin of every spark within us. And the silence between them is not empty. It is the pause between notes, the breath that gives meaning to melody. Without silence, music cannot exist. Without darkness, light cannot shine. There is a kind of comfort in this idea, that the universe itself is not chaotic noise, but a carefully tuned harmony. A silent symphony where everything plays its part. Even chaos has rhythm. Even destruction carries resonance. When a star collapses, when a galaxy collides with another, it is not the end of music. It is a new movement beginning, a shift in key, the orchestra changing tone. Think of this the next time you gaze at the night sky. Think of how the constellations, so still to your eyes, are dancing slowly, changing position across millennia. Think of how their light carries stories, not just myths written by ancient people, but stories written by the cosmos itself. Light is memory. Each star you see has already lived part of its song before the light ever reached you. When you look up, you are not only hearing the music, you are listening to echoes from the past, folded into the present, still ringing into the future. Now, consider your place in this concert. If the stars are violins, the black holes drums, the galaxies choirs, what are we? These fragile beings, so small on our tiny planet. Perhaps we are the silence that listens. Perhaps we are the audience, not passive but essential. For music only becomes real when it is received, when it is felt. Without the ear, vibration is not sound. Without awareness, the universe's harmony would pass unnoticed. And so we listen. With our telescopes, our instruments, and our quiet hearts, we lean into the silence of the sky, straining to hear the next note. And in listening, we find ourselves woven into the performance. Our awe is part of the score. Our wonder is a necessary chord. Even in sleep, when the mind drifts and the body rests, we remain within the symphony. Dreams themselves are like starlight, fragments of energy, pieces of memory, crossing the dark space of the unconscious to reach the surface. They hum softly, indistinguishable from the whispers of the universe outside. So tonight, as you lie down, imagine yourself not as separate, but as a note in this grand composition. Imagine your breath as a gentle flute, your heartbeat as a steady drum, your thoughts as quiet strings that join the galaxies above. You are not apart from the music, you are part of its eternal chorus, and the silence you hear as you drift deeper is not emptiness. It is the hidden resonance, the quiet stage upon which the stars continue to play, forever and without end. The hidden frequencies of the mind close. Your eyes for a moment, and listen, not to the world outside, but to the vibrations within you. Beneath the noise of your thoughts, beneath the chatter of memory and imagination, there lies a deeper hum, a silent resonance, subtle as the vibration of a string that has just been plucked, lingering in the air. This is the frequency of your mind. Not a sound, but a pulse. Not a note, but a field. It moves through you, carries you, and in moments of stillness, you can almost hear it. Science tells us the brain hums with electrical rhythms, oscillations that rise and fall like tides. Alpha waves, beta waves, theta waves, delta waves. Each frequency marks a different state of being. Alertness, relaxation, dreaming, deep sleep. But beyond this clinical description lies something more mysterious. Why should the mind need rhythm at all? Why should consciousness, so fluid, so boundless, choose to dance upon invisible waves, as though it were music waiting to be heard? Perhaps because consciousness itself is music. Not in the literal sense, but in the way music binds chaos into form. A jumble of random notes means nothing, but when arranged, they become melody, harmony, a story in sound. So too with the fragments of perception, the thousands of impulses bombarding your senses every second. Alone, they are meaningless, but the mind arranges them, layers them, creates rhythm and meaning. It is not just perception, it is composition. Think of your earliest memory. Do you recall the way it feels? Not just the image, but the texture of it, the warmth, the fear, the sound of someone's voice. That memory is not a static photograph. It is a symphony of sensation, chords of emotion layered with faint echoes of thought. And every time you return to it, you change the score a little, rewrite the melody. Memory, then, is a living song, reshaped each time it is played. Dreams, too, follow this pattern. A dream may feel wild, chaotic, disconnected, but there is always rhythm underneath, a logic that unfolds like music bending in strange keys. Dreams dissolve boundaries, but they do not dissolve rhythm. They move with the pulse of the mind's hidden frequencies. A nightmare is a dissonant chord. A peaceful dream is a slow, flowing harmony. To dream is to hear your unconscious composing in real time, without the interference of waking thought. And what of silence? The silence of meditation. The silence when thought finally rests. In that silence, something remarkable happens. The hidden frequencies grow clearer. The hum of being itself begins to shine through. People who meditate often describe it as hearing an inner ringing, a vibration in the body, a sound that is not sound. Some call it the OM, the primal tone from which all others emerge. Whether metaphor or truth, the experience is the same. The realization that beneath all thought and perception, there is a steady vibration, like the heartbeat of consciousness itself. This is not something only mystics know. Physicists speak of resonance at the foundation of reality. Strings vibrating, fields oscillating, space-time itself rippling. If the cosmos has its frequencies, why would the mind not echo them? You are, after all, made of the universe. Your brain is carved from stardust, your thoughts fueled by energy that once shone as starlight. The frequencies within you and the frequencies of the cosmos may not merely resemble each other, they may be the same. Imagine, then, that your every thought is a note played in the great orchestra of existence. When you are calm, the notes are soft, harmonious. When you are restless, they clash, dissonant and sharp, but always they are part of the whole, feeding back into the symphony. Perhaps this is why great moments of creativity feel like they do not come from us, but through us. The mind aligns with the hidden frequencies, catches the resonance, and what emerges is not forced, but effortless, like a melody that writes itself. Some traditions speak of the music of the spheres, the idea that planets, stars and orbits all produce tones inaudible to our ears but real nonetheless. Could the mind too have such music? And if so, how might it sound if we could truly hear it? Would it be the low drone of thoughts colliding, or the delicate chime of insights breaking through? Would it be a choir of selves, each version of you from every stage of your life, singing together in harmony? Or would it be one single eternal note, the sound of pure awareness itself? We can test this idea in small ways. Think of a time when you were in perfect flow, writing, painting, solving, moving without effort or pause. In that state, the mind hums in perfect alignment. There is no resistance, no jarring discord, only movement, fluid and unbroken. That is resonance, The moment when your inner frequencies match the hidden pulse of reality. In that state, you are no longer separate from the universe. You are carried by its song. But what of the times when we are not aligned? When thoughts scatter? When emotions crash against each other like untuned instruments? That too is part of the symphony. Dissonance has its place. It challenges harmony, forces the melody forward. Even in your most chaotic moments, your mind is still resonating, still contributing to the larger whole. The symphony of existence does not reject discord. It weaves it into resolution, transforms tension into beauty, and so we come to a deeper truth. The hidden frequencies of the mind are not mistakes, not random noise. They are the bridge between you and the universe. Every hum, every rhythm, every rise and fall of thought is a thread that ties you back to the stars. Tonight, as you listen to this, feel for that hidden hum beneath your breath, beneath your heartbeat, beneath the endless churn of thought. There is a pulse there, waiting. It does not ask for belief, only for attention. And if you rest within it long enough, you may realize something extraordinary. That consciousness itself is the music, and you, in all your wonder and confusion, are the instrument through which it plays. The hidden frequencies of the mind are not secrets meant to be solved. They are invitations to listen, to resonate, to remember that you are not outside the song. You are the song, the illusion of separation. All your life, you have been taught to believe in separation. You are here, the world is there. Your thoughts belong to you, and the stars belong to the sky. Your body has boundaries, skin marking the edge of self, the line where you end and everything else begins. It feels certain, solid, unquestionable. And yet, what if that certainty is an illusion? What if separation is nothing more than a trick of perception, a veil drawn across the truth of things? Consider the air. You breathe it in, and for a moment it becomes you. Oxygen flows into your blood, into every cell, into every thought. Without it, you would cease to exist. But the moment you exhale, it returns to the world, to the trees, to the endless atmosphere that belongs to no one and everyone. Was it ever truly separate? Was it yours for that brief instant? Or was it always part of something larger, flowing endlessly through all life? Consider water. The same water that circulates in your veins once coursed through rivers, pooled in oceans, fell from clouds, froze in glaciers. Before that, it drifted as vapor, and long before that, it was forged in stellar furnaces. Every sip you take is ancient, older than humanity, older than Earth itself. It is the same water that dinosaurs drank, that once touched the lips of forgotten ancestors, that will one day flow through beings yet to be born. Is there really separation, or is there only circulation, endless and inseparable? Even your body defies the idea of independence. You think of yourself as one entity, a single self. But in truth, you are a living symbiosis. Trillions of microbes inhabit your gut, your skin, your mouth, shaping your health, your mood, even your thoughts. Without them, you could not digest food, could not survive. Are they part of you, or are you part of them? Where does the line of self truly begin and end? Then there is thought. Each idea you have feels private, uniquely yours. But is it? The language you use was given to you. The concepts you rely on were shaped by countless others who lived before you. Every sentence you speak is borrowed, every metaphor a gift from generations past. Even your imagination, those flashes of inspiration are often echoes of things you have seen, read, or felt. Are thoughts truly separate? Or are they threads in a vast collective tapestry of consciousness? Science begins to whisper the same truth. On the quantum level, particles do not obey the rules of separation. Entangled pairs can be galaxies apart, yet what happens to one instantly affects the other. Space and time themselves seem less like barriers and more like woven fabric, connecting everything in ways we barely understand. Separation at this scale becomes less certain, and on the cosmic level, the illusion breaks down even further. The atoms that make you are the same atoms that make the stars. The laws that govern your heartbeat are the same that guide galaxies. You are not looking at the universe. You are looking from within it. You are not apart from it. You are it, folded into awareness. But the illusion of separation persists because consciousness itself creates it. To survive, the mind must distinguish self from other, danger from safety, food from poison. This boundary is useful, essential, but it is not the whole truth. It is a simplification, a survival strategy. Just as a map is not the territory, the self you believe in is not the totality of what you are. And here lies the paradox. The sense of being separate is the very thing that allows you to rediscover unity. By believing yourself to be a drop, you can one day awaken to realize you are the ocean. By believing yourself to be a wave, you can feel the vastness of the sea that carries you. Without the illusion, the revelation could never come. When you feel alone, when you feel cut off, when you feel like no one could possibly understand the storms within you, remember this: separation is only a shadow. Beneath it lies a deeper truth. The emotions you carry are not uniquely yours. They are echoes of humanity itself. The joy you feel has been felt a billion times before. The sorrow that bends your heart has been sung in every language, across every culture, since the dawn of time. You are not isolated in your experience. You are participating in a universal chorus. And so, the walls begin to fall. You are not a solitary mind locked within a skull. You are a field, porous and open, resonating with the frequencies of all that is. Your thoughts ripple outward like waves, subtle but real, shaping the field around you. And just as you send, you receive. The moods of others, the silence of the night, the hum of the stars. Consciousness is not a fortress. It is a river, flowing through all things, without edges. This is why moments of profound connection feel so transcendent. When you look into the eyes of someone you love and feel yourself dissolve into their gaze, the illusion flickers. When you stand before a vast landscape and lose the sense of your own smallness, the illusion thins. When music moves you beyond words, or when silence folds you into its embrace, the illusion cracks and the truth shines through. There is no separation. There never was. You are the breath and the wind. You are the ocean and the drop. You are the stars and the mind that wonders at them. You are the silence and the symphony. The illusion of separation is not your prison. It is your teacher. And when the lesson is learned, when the veil is finally lifted, you may see what mystics, poets, and scientists alike have always suspected, that everything is one vast consciousness, endlessly expressing itself through countless forms. And you, right now, listening, breathing, wondering, are one of its infinite expressions. When the veil lifts, glimpses of unity, there are moments in life, rare, fleeting, yet unforgettable, when the veil of separation dissolves. They come unexpectedly, slipping into ordinary days like light through a crack in the wall. You are walking under trees, or sitting by a window, or lying in bed with the quiet of night pressing gently against your chest, and suddenly everything shifts. The edges blur, the boundaries vanish, and what remains is a silence so vast, so full, that you no longer feel like a single self looking outward. You feel like the whole of existence looking inward. For centuries, mystics and seekers have spoken of such moments. They call them enlightenment, awakening, union. They describe them in poems and parables, in whispers and in riddles, because words are too small to contain them. To speak of unity is to speak of something that cannot be held, only lived. Yet still they try, and in their attempts we hear echoes of something profound. A Sufi poet speaks of losing himself in the beloved, of no longer knowing where I ends and you begins. A Zen master says it plainly. Before enlightenment, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. During enlightenment, mountains are not mountains and rivers are not rivers. After enlightenment, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers again. The mountains do not change, nor the rivers, but perception does. The veil lifts and the truth beneath shines through. Science, though cautious, brushes against the same mystery. Neurologists studying meditation and mystical states find that certain areas of the brain, those responsible for drawing boundaries between self and world, grow quiet. When those neural walls relax, the sense of separation fades. The person no longer feels contained in a body, but expanded into everything. For the mystic, it is communion with God. For the scientist, it is a change in neural processing. But perhaps both are different languages for the same experience, the lifting of the veil. Even ordinary people, with no spiritual training, glimpse unity in the face of crisis. Near-death experiences often bring reports of merging with light, of dissolving into a presence that feels infinite and loving. beyond words. Survivors speak of seeing not with eyes, but with awareness, of being everywhere at once, of feeling not their own heartbeat, but the heartbeat of existence itself. For them, separation ended, not as an idea, but as lived reality. Children, too, may glimpse it. Watch a child at play, utterly absorbed, laughing at nothing, staring in awe at a flower or a cloud. In their gaze, the world is not separate. It is alive, immediate, part of them. Slowly, as the child learns language and boundaries, the veil is pulled across, but the memory of unity lingers in wonder, in awe, in the feeling of being fully present. Music often pulls us back to that place. A song can rise and swell until you are no longer listening. You are inside it, carried by it, dissolved into rhythm and tone. You stop being you for a moment and become sound itself, vibrating. The same happens with art, with dance, with beauty. Anything that draws you so deeply into the present that you forget yourself, even briefly, is a crack in the veil. And what of love? Perhaps the most powerful glimpse of all. To love so deeply that your joy is tied to another's joy, your sorrow to their sorrow, is to feel that you are not two beings, but one. Lovers often describe this as merging, as though their souls overlap. Parents feel it in the instant they hold a newborn, in the way the boundary between my life and your life collapses into something shared. Love is not just an emotion, it is the dissolving of separation, the reminder that you are already joined. But these glimpses fade, the veil returns. You awaken from the mystical moment and find yourself again, bounded, separate, small, and yet the memory remains, like a fragrance lingering in the air after the flower is gone. That memory haunts you, whispers to you, invites you to seek again. And so the mystics practice. They sit in silence, in meditation, in prayer. They wander into deserts and mountains, seeking places where the veil thins. They chant, they fast, they breathe slowly and deeply, training their minds to quiet, to soften, to release the boundaries. And sometimes, after years of effort, the veil lifts not for a moment, but for good. They return changed, speaking of unity not as vision, but as truth. But here is the paradox. You do not need to climb a mountain or chant for decades to glimpse unity. It is already here. Every breath you take is proof. Every heartbeat is proof. The air you exhale becomes the air another inhales. The sunlight warming your skin began its journey 8 minutes ago from the surface of the sun, and long before that, it was born in the heart of a star. You are already connected. You have always been connected. The veil does not hide the truth. It only hides your awareness of it. When the veil lifts, even for a heartbeat, everything changes. Fear softens, for there is no other to threaten you. Loneliness fades, for there is no distance between beings. Death loses its sharp edge, for you see that what you truly are cannot end. It is the same consciousness flowing through all things. In unity, even pain takes on a different meaning, not as personal torment, but as part of a larger movement, a darker note in a wider symphony. The mind resists this truth because the mind clings to identity, to selfhood. It fears dissolution, but awareness, pure awareness, knows no fear because it has no boundaries to defend. To glimpse unity is to remember what you are beneath the mind, not a separate self, but consciousness itself. Not a drop, but the ocean. Not a shadow, but the light. And so, every glimpse, every crack in the veil is an invitation. You're invited not to escape the world, but to see it anew. To see that the tree outside your window is not separate from you. To see that the stranger's eyes are not alien, but mirrors. To see that the stars above are not distant. They are your ancestors, your kin, your very substance. The veil may lift in great visions, in radiant lights and dissolving selves, or it may lift quietly, in the silence between breaths, in the stillness of night, in the simple act of being present. And in that lifting, you may realize that unity was never lost, it was only forgotten. When the veil lifts, even for a moment, you see the truth that cannot be unseen. There is no separation. There never was. There is only one consciousness, infinite, eternal, wearing countless masks, dreaming countless dreams. And you, this moment, this life, this breath, are one of them. The silence between your breaths holds a secret, one that even science strains to capture. It is in this pause, this invisible bridge between inhale and exhale, that consciousness whispers its truest form. Let us step into that silence together, for here, beyond language and beyond thought, lies the theater where your mind paints realities, where dreams echo louder than facts, and where the self, the one you cling to, is both actor and illusion. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't show your body, but your awareness. What would you see? Not your face, not your features, but the thing that looks at them, the gaze itself. That's the puzzle of consciousness. It can observe everything but itself. It's like a lantern shining outwards, forever unable to light its own glass. Yet in this paradox, something profound emerges. Consciousness is both the mystery and the stage on which mysteries appear. Philosophers have wrestled with this riddle for centuries. Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am." But is thinking the proof, or merely the symptom? Buddhists whisper that consciousness is like a river, continuous, flowing, yet never the same water twice. Neuroscientists, on the other hand, fire their instruments into the storm of neurons, trying to locate that elusive spark. The hard problem, as David Chalmers calls it. Why should matter, blind and physical, give rise to the warm glow of experience? Why should atoms arranged a certain way become capable of sorrow, joy, longing, or wonder? Now lean closer. This is not abstract, it is you. The sound of my voice reaches you not as vibration, not as data, but as an experience you feel. The coolness of your room, the weight of your body against the chair, the flickering background of thoughts you cannot silence. All of this is woven into one seamless tapestry of awareness. And the question is, who weaves it? Some say consciousness is fundamental, that the universe itself is aware, and our minds are just fragments of that cosmic mind. This is panpsychism, the idea that awareness saturates every particle, every quark, every vibration. If true, then your mind is not a lonely island, but a ripple in the ocean of universal knowing. Others argue it is emergent, a trick of complexity, like music rising from vibrating strings. When neurons fire in great symphonies, consciousness appears as their harmony, fragile and temporary, destined to fade when the orchestra ends. But here's the unsettling truth. Neither view fully captures what you are right now. Consciousness resists cages. When you try to pin it down, it slips through your fingers. When you name it, it transforms. It is not inside your brain, nor outside. It is the space in which inside and outside even make sense. Think of a dream. In a dream, you walk through streets, talk to strangers, flee from shadows. Yet all of it is your mind. The people, the sky, the ground beneath your feet. They exist within you. But when you wake, you call the dream unreal and the waking world real. How can you be so sure? What if waking life is simply another dream, deeper, slower, harder to notice? Consciousness never tells you whether you are dreaming or awake. It only presents experience. The difference may be one of scale, not essence. There is a haunting thought here. If reality is bent through the prism of consciousness, then what we call the world may be less solid than we think. Maybe time itself, past, present, and future, is stitched together by the needle of awareness. Maybe the universe as we see it is the shadow of a deeper light, a projection cast upon the cave wall of the mind. And yet, even as I say this, consciousness keeps watching, like a silent witness. It does not argue. It does not explain. It simply is. This is why mystics sit in silence, why meditators chase stillness, why poets lose themselves in metaphors. Because words can only circle what is already here, brighter than words, older than thought. So ask yourself, is consciousness yours, or are you its? Are you the dreamer or the dream? The answer may be both or neither. For to awaken to the mystery of consciousness is not to solve it, but to live inside it, to let it bend reality until reality itself dissolves into awareness. Now breathe again and notice. The silence is still there. The witness is still here. And perhaps in that noticing, you've already touched the truth. There is a doorway in your mind that you walk through every single night, and yet you rarely notice it. It is the crossing from waking into sleep, from awareness of the outside world into the shimmering, unpredictable landscape of dreams. One moment you are lying in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing the faint hum of the world around you, and then, without warning, without memory of the exact crossing, you find yourself in another place entirely. Perhaps standing in a city that does not exist, speaking with people who are fragments of yourself, or running through fields painted by emotions rather than physics. This doorway, subtle and elusive, may hold one of the deepest secrets of consciousness. For if consciousness were merely a switch, a matter of neurons firing, chemicals flooding, a mechanical system of inputs and outputs, how does it create entire worlds while you sleep? How does it spin universes of meaning without needing external input? Within dreams, consciousness does not simply perceive, it invents. It generates. It crafts the very fabric of reality you experience. This suggests something staggering. Consciousness is not just a passive witness to reality, it is a creator of realities. Think about it. In a dream, you see mountains, but those mountains are not there. You taste food, but there is nothing to chew. You speak words, but no air leaves your mouth. Still, the experiences feel real. You wake with your heart racing after being chased, or with tears drying on your face after meeting a loved one who has long passed. The body reacts to what the mind has made. Consciousness, then, does not merely bend reality, it manufactures it from nothing. But there is a deeper puzzle. Who is the dreamer in the dream? Sometimes you appear as yourself, but often you slip into different forms, or drift between perspectives. The dream self seems to have thoughts, fears, desires, yet the you who awakens feels distinct from that character. Does this mean there are layers of consciousness? Actors upon actors, masks upon masks, each more ephemeral than the last? Is your waking self just another mask, a role written by the larger consciousness that you cannot see? Philosophers have long suspected this. The ancient Hindus spoke of Maya, the grand illusion of existence, a cosmic dream in which all beings play their parts. To awaken was to pierce through the dream of life itself, to see the dreamer behind the dream. Similarly, in the Tibetan Bardo Thodol, the Book of the Dead, death is described as a passage into dreamlike realities, shaped not by physical laws, but by the mind's deepest impressions. Even modern neuroscience admits that the dreaming brain uses much of the same architecture as waking thought, yet liberated from the anchors of external stimuli, it can construct entire internal galaxies. And here lies the breathtaking possibility. What if your waking life is not so different? What if the streets you walk, the people you meet, the very notion of time passing, are all woven by consciousness in the same way as your dreams? Dreams collapse when you wake, but perhaps waking reality collapses when a greater awakening comes. Consciousness may not be contained in the body at all. It may be the field upon which both dreaming and waking realities are projected. Now pause and notice something. As you hear these words, there is a faint, lingering memory of your own dreams. Maybe from last night, maybe from years ago. Think of one that still clings to you. How did it feel? Did it not seem real in the moment? That feeling, that immediacy, is the very fabric of consciousness. It does not ask whether something is true or false. It only offers experience. It is we, in waking life, who label and judge. Consciousness itself does not care. It only flows. And if that is true, then perhaps reality itself, this waking one we share right now, is nothing more than the most persistent dream, as Einstein once hinted. Perhaps when we fall asleep tonight, we will not drift into unreality, but into another branch of the same mysterious river, where the current bends differently but is still consciousness through and through. So the question is not whether dreams are real. The question is, which dream are you living now? Memory is not a library. It is not a collection of fixed, dust-covered books waiting to be opened. No, memory is alive, breathing fluid. Each time you recall, you do not pull a photograph from a drawer. You paint the picture anew, brushstroke by brushstroke. And with every retelling, the colors shift, the shapes blur, and the truth becomes less about what happened and more about what consciousness decides to keep alive. Think of your earliest memory. Perhaps a childhood room, sunlight falling in crooked beams through curtains. Perhaps the sound of your mother's voice, or the sensation of running barefoot on grass. Now ask yourself, do you remember the moment itself, Or do you remember remembering it? Every time your consciousness revisits the past, it reshapes it. Like water wearing down stone, awareness alters the very thing it touches. This is why memory feels so ghostly, because it is both anchor and mirage. Neuroscience tells us the brain does not store experiences whole. It stores fragments scattered across networks of neurons. When you recall, consciousness stitches these fragments together into a seamless story. Yet the story is never identical to the original event. It is reconstructed, reimagined, reborn in the present moment. The past is not behind you. It is recreated inside you now, every time you call it forth. But here lies the bending of reality. If memory can shift, if consciousness can repaint the past, then what is real history? Your sense of self is built on memory. You believe you are who you are because of what has happened to you. But if those memories are fluid, then yourself is fluid too. Less a monument, more a moving river. You are not the person who once lived those events. You are the consciousness that keeps rewriting them into being. Philosophers have long wrestled with this. Locke argued that memory is the essence of identity, that we are the same person only so long as we remember ourselves. But what happens to those who forget? Are they no longer who they were? If identity depends on memory, and memory depends on consciousness, then the self is not a solid core, but a flickering flame. The flame may appear steady, but it is never the same fire twice. Think too of how memory and emotion entwine. You do not remember every detail. You remember what burned, what hurt, what shone with joy. Consciousness does not archive. It curates. It highlights certain threads, weaves them into a tapestry, and leaves others to vanish into silence. Yet even these highlights are fragile. Tell yourself a story enough times and it becomes truth. Whisper it differently and the truth bends. History is not what happened. It is what consciousness allows you to carry forward. And still, there is a deeper, stranger possibility. If memory is not just recall but creation, then perhaps it extends beyond the self. Some cultures speak of ancestral memory, stories, instincts, fears, and longings passed not through words but through awareness itself. Perhaps what you carry inside are not just your memories, but echoes of countless lives before you, rippling through the web of consciousness. Now imagine for a moment, if your memories shape your reality, and your reality shapes who you are, then changing your memories changes your world. To forgive is not to alter the past, but to bend it. To reinterpret pain is to rewrite the script of your life. Consciousness wields memory like clay, and with each new touch, the sculpture shifts. So when you close your eyes tonight and wander through the gallery of your past, notice how the paintings shift under your gaze. Notice how some grow sharper while others fade, and realize this simple, breathtaking truth. The past is not gone. It is alive inside you, sculpted by the hand of consciousness, forever changing, forever bending. What if your mind is not just yours? What if the thoughts you call your own are threads woven into a fabric far larger than yourself? A fabric that stretches across generations, cultures, and even the very pulse of the universe. This is the haunting possibility of collective consciousness. That awareness does not end at the edge of your skull, but flows like a river into others, merging, dividing, rejoining, forever part of something greater. Look around you, cities thrumming with life, crowds moving in patterns, languages evolving, myths passed down through centuries. None of this springs from one person alone. Consciousness, in its collective form, shapes civilizations. Stories become belief systems, beliefs become laws. Laws become the architecture of reality itself. Each individual thought may seem fleeting, but together they generate the invisible field we call culture, society, humanity. You are not just an observer of this field. You are one of its living cells, resonating, influencing, and being influenced. Carl Jung spoke of this as the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir beneath the personal mind, filled with archetypes, symbols, and instincts shared by all human beings. Why do strangers across continents dream of the same symbols? Snakes, storms, falling, flying. Why do myths across cultures echo one another, with heroes, tricksters, creators, and destroyers repeating in endless variations? Perhaps consciousness is not confined. Perhaps we inherit not just DNA, but patterns of awareness, a library written into the fabric of existence itself, and it does not stop at humanity. Imagine consciousness as a field, like gravity, like electromagnetism. Your awareness ripples into mine, mine into yours, just as stones tossed into a pond send waves colliding and merging. In this sense, every thought you have does not vanish. It reverberates, subtly influencing the collective field. When enough minds focus on the same idea, reality itself bends toward it. History shifts, revolutions ignite, peace blooms or war spreads. Consciousness, multiplied and entangled, is not passive, it is power. Now consider this. What if the universe itself has a collective consciousness? Stars burning, galaxies swirling, black holes consuming. What if all of it hums with awareness, and our human minds are just sparks within that cosmic bonfire? Some traditions call this the noosphere, a planetary mind where all human thought converges. Others call it the Akashic field, a cosmic memory bank recording every experience. Science edges toward this idea with theories of quantum entanglement, where particles separated by light years remain mysteriously linked. If matter can share hidden connections, why not mind? Think of those moments when you sense someone is about to call you before the phone rings, or when entire societies seem to awaken at once to new ideas, as if consciousness itself has turned a page. These are glimpses, perhaps, of the deeper truth, that we are not islands, but waves in a single ocean. And if this is true, then the self, the I you hold onto so tightly, is both smaller and grander than you ever imagined. Smaller because you are not separate, grander because you are part of something vast, alive, intelligent beyond measure. You are a neuron in the brain of the cosmos. Now ask yourself, what would it mean to live as though this were true? To see every encounter not as me and you, but as us, fragments of a single consciousness gazing at itself. Perhaps compassion would no longer be a virtue, but a necessity. Perhaps the wars we wage within and without would fade when we realized we are only fighting ourselves. So the mind-bending reality of consciousness does not stop with the self. It stretches outward, endlessly, until the boundary between mine and yours dissolves. Consciousness is not a solitary flame. It is the fire of the universe, burning in countless forms, endlessly reflecting itself back. And here, we close the first great movement of our journey, an exploration of the individual mind, memory, dream, and the collective field that unites us. But this is only the beginning. Ahead lies another realm, the bending of time, the nature of perception, and the possibility that consciousness does not merely witness the universe, it creates it. Time, what a strange and slippery thing it is. You glance at a clock, its hands move in perfect rhythm, precise, mechanical, unyielding, yet your experience of time is nothing like the ticking of gears. 5 minutes waiting in silence can stretch into an eternity, while hours lost in laughter or creation vanish like a dream. The clock does not bend, but consciousness does. Time is not what the universe imposes on you. Time is what your awareness weaves from experience. Close your eyes for a moment and think of yesterday. Where is it now? Not in the streets you walked, not in the meals you ate, not in the sky that passed over you. Yesterday exists only here in memory, painted by the brush of your consciousness. And tomorrow, where is it? Not yet born, yet you feel its gravity, the pull of expectations, worries, hopes. The past and future do not live outside you. They live within awareness, stitched into the now like ghostly shadows. This is where consciousness bends reality most profoundly. It creates time, not as a line, but as a sensation. Neuroscience tells us that your brain does not perceive events continuously. It takes snapshots, stitches them together, and then presents you with the illusion of a flowing stream. Consciousness edits the film reel, fills in the gaps, and smooths the jumps. Without it, time would not be continuous. It would be fragments of lightning in the void. And yet, time is more than memory and prediction. Think of how it slows in danger. The car spinning on the highway, the moment before impact. Suddenly, seconds stretch into long corridors, every detail heightened, every sound distinct. Consciousness does this, not the clock. In those moments, the brain floods with adrenaline, and awareness sharpens into a blade, bending the sense of time itself. Now think of meditation, or of states of flow. Hours can pass while painting, playing, writing, or simply sitting still, and you emerge shocked by how the world outside has raced ahead. Consciousness dissolves into the present and time evaporates. In such states, the past and future vanish, leaving only the immediacy of now. Some mystics claim this is the truest perception of time, not as a river carrying you forward, but as an eternal moment, endlessly unfolding. Physics, too, whispers strange secrets. Einstein taught us that time is relative, that it bends with gravity, stretches with speed. Near a black hole, time itself slows, seconds stretching into centuries. But isn't it remarkable? Consciousness already knew how to bend time long before science confirmed it. The difference is that one bends time in matter, and the other bends time in mind. But what if these are not separate? What if the perception of time and the reality of time are entangled? Some theories suggest that consciousness might not be inside time at all. That instead, consciousness is the stage upon which time appears. If so, then the past, present, and future may exist all at once, like pages in a book. Consciousness does not move through time, it flips through the pages. What feels like flow may be a deeper illusion, your awareness scanning through a pre-written story. Pause and notice how this feels. The very act of remembering shapes the past. The very act of anticipating shapes the future. Your consciousness is not traveling through time, it is constructing it. It is deciding where the now begins and ends. So perhaps the truth is this: time does not exist outside of consciousness. Without awareness, there is no past to recall, no future to await, no present to savor. Consciousness is the clock, the river, the eternal flame that bends time into something you can live. And if that is so, then every moment you experience is not slipping away. It is infinite, waiting within the folds of awareness. Time bends not because the universe commands it, but because your consciousness weaves it into being. Space surrounds you, or so it seems. The floor beneath your feet, the walls of your room, the distant horizon, the stars scattered across the night sky. We are taught to see space as vast, external, unchanging. But pause for a moment and notice. Do you truly experience space itself? Or do you experience only the way consciousness arranges it? When you close your eyes, where does space go? The room vanishes, the walls dissolve, the universe folds into darkness. And yet you still are. Awareness remains even when the map of space is gone. This reveals something profound. Space, like time, is not independent of consciousness. It is a canvas painted by perception. Without awareness, there is no here and no there. Think about vision. Your eyes take in light, yes, but the raw data is meaningless until consciousness interprets it. The brain stitches together two separate images from your eyes, aligns them, fills in blind spots, and constructs the illusion of depth. You do not see space itself. You see consciousness generating a model of space. And this model is not perfect. Stare long enough at an optical illusion, and you will see how easily awareness bends reality. The straight lines curve. The flat images appear three-dimensional. The impossible becomes visible. Consciousness warps space without hesitation. Now imagine walking through a familiar street. Your awareness fills in details you do not truly perceive. The edges of buildings, the sound of footsteps, the colors of the sky. You do not reconstruct space every second. You lean on memory, prediction, expectation. Consciousness builds a space not from what is there, but from what it assumes should be there. In truth, what you call the world around you is not outside. It is inside, a projection stitched together by awareness. This is why two people can share the same place, yet inhabit entirely different worlds. One sees beauty, another sees danger. One feels at home, another feels lost. The space itself has not changed, but consciousness has painted it differently. Reality is not a single room we all walk into. It is many rooms, overlapping, each shaped by the mind that perceives it. Philosophers have whispered of this for centuries. Kant argued that space is not an external feature of the world, but a structure imposed by the mind, a way in which consciousness organizes experience. Modern neuroscience agrees. Your sense of space is an invention, a cognitive construction. Without consciousness, here and there lose meaning. And physics takes the riddle further. At the quantum level, particles do not sit in space like marbles in a box. They are clouds of probability, existing everywhere and nowhere until observed. Space itself is not a backdrop, but a relationship, a web of connections. Some theories even suggest that space emerges from entanglement, that the geometry of the universe is born from information, from awareness woven into structure. If true, then consciousness is not inside space. Space is inside consciousness. Now reflect on dreams. In a dream, you walk through landscapes vast and strange, but where are they? Not on the earth, not in the stars, not in any physical coordinates. They exist entirely in awareness, yet they feel real. You climb dream mountains, open dream doors, swim in dream oceans, and every detail is vivid, textured, alive. If consciousness can generate space so convincingly in dreams, why not in waking life too? And here is the mind-bending possibility. Perhaps there is no real space at all. Perhaps it is only the stage consciousness constructs to give order to experience, a stage that can warp, stretch, dissolve. Mystics speak of dissolving the boundary between self and world, where the sense of distance collapses and all becomes one field of awareness. In such states, there is no out there or in here, only the seamless whole of consciousness itself. So ask yourself, when you point to the stars, are you pointing outward or inward? When you walk across a room, are you moving through external space or shifting the stage your mind has built? The truth may be stranger than we dare imagine. Space bends because consciousness wills it so. Matter, solid, unyielding, the foundation upon which we build our lives. Wood that can be carved, stone that can be stacked, iron that can be forged. We trust it, we lean on it, we call it real because it resists us, because it pushes back when we press against it. Yet beneath that illusion of solidity, a deeper truth emerges. Matter bends beneath the gaze of consciousness. Look closely and matter dissolves into emptiness. The table in front of you, the device in your hand, the very body you inhabit, they are not solid objects, but vast, swirling seas of atoms. And those atoms are not tiny marbles, but vibrations, probabilities, flickers of energy in fields we barely comprehend. 99.9% of what we call solid is space. So why does it feel otherwise? Because consciousness interprets it so. Awareness stitches vibration into form, texture, weight. Without perception, matter is a ghost. Consider this. The same arrangement of particles can be experienced in infinite ways. To one person, a stone is a weapon. To another, it is a symbol. To a sculptor, it is potential. To a child, it is just something to throw into a pond. The stone itself has not changed. Consciousness has. Meaning is not in matter, it is in mind. But the strangeness does not stop there. In quantum physics, particles exist in superposition, multiple states at once, until observed. Observation collapses possibilities into one outcome. Consciousness, in this sense, does not just perceive matter, it participates in shaping it. The observer effect is not mere philosophy, it is physics. The universe behaves differently when it is seen. Matter, then, is not an independent reality. It is a canvas upon which consciousness paints. Think of placebo. A sugar pill, empty of medicine, can heal when the mind believes it can. Tumors shrink, pain vanishes, symptoms ease, not from the pill, but from consciousness altering the body. Here matter bends not metaphorically, but biologically. Belief rewrites cells. Faith reprograms chemistry. The body itself becomes proof that consciousness and matter are not separate but entwined. Or think of psychosomatic pain. Nothing physical is wrong, yet the body aches, weakens, falters, because the mind declares it so. Consciousness is not merely a passenger in the body. It is a driver, capable of steering matter into states of health or illness. And in the reverse, matter shapes consciousness. A single molecule of serotonin or dopamine can tilt your mood from despair to joy. The physical alters the mental, but the mental alters the physical too. The two are not separate but mirrors, each bending the other endlessly. Mystics across ages saw this truth. Alchemists believed matter could be transformed by inner vision. Shamans used ritual and belief to heal bodies. Yogis claimed that consciousness could command physical laws, suspending heartbeat, enduring flames, bending even death. Science may frown, but stories persist of monks raising body temperature in icy mountains, of healers touching wounds into recovery, of people lifting impossible weights in moments of need. Matter bends subtly, strangely, when consciousness demands it. And perhaps this bending is not confined to the body. Think of the way architecture changes when consciousness evolves. Ancient temples shaped by the collective mind of a culture, skyscrapers reaching as ambition grew, entire cities reshaped by ideas. Matter rearranges itself not on its own, but through the designs consciousness inscribes upon it. Every object you see, the chair, the pen, the glass, once existed only as thought. The material world around you is nothing less than the dream of consciousness, made solid. So the next time you touch a stone, or hold a cup, or feel the earth beneath your feet, remember, it is not truly solid. It is a song of particles, a dance of vibrations, arranged by awareness into the illusion of form. Consciousness does not merely witness matter, it sculpts it. The bending of matter is not magic. It is the everyday miracle you live inside, though you rarely notice it. Consciousness is the silent architect, turning emptiness into worlds, turning vibrations into mountains, turning thought into stone. Imagine the world around you as if it were a stage play, carefully written, directed, and acted out, not by you, but by something deeper, something beneath the surface of thought. What if every sound you hear, every light that brushes against your eyes, every sensation on your skin is not reality itself, but a carefully painted representation created within your mind? In this theater of awareness, perception becomes not a window to the truth, but a lens through which reality is bent, reshaped, and sometimes entirely fabricated. That is the strange and unsettling truth about how consciousness works. It doesn't give you reality, it gives you an interpretation of it. Think about colors. You see blue in the sky, red in a rose, and green in a meadow. Yet, none of those objects inherently contain those colors. A rose doesn't hold redness within its petals. What actually exists is a surface that reflects certain wavelengths of light and absorbs others. Your eyes capture these waves, your brain translates them, and your mind paints red. In truth, the world has no color at all. Color lives only within consciousness. This means that what you see as your daily reality, the vivid hues, the depth of shadows, the blazing brilliance of a sunset, is an artwork painted entirely inside your awareness. And it isn't just colors. Sound too is not really out there. There are vibrations in the air, yes, but sound itself, music, voices, whispers, exists only when those vibrations are received and transformed by your ears and consciousness. Without a conscious mind to process it, the world would be silent, painted only with invisible waves of pressure rippling through air and matter. So when you marvel at a symphony or are stirred by a friend's laugh, you are not hearing the universe directly. You are experiencing your own mind's rendering of it. This revelation brings us to a curious conclusion. Perception is not the truth of reality, but a tailored simulation. You are not in direct contact with what exists outside. You are always one step removed, interpreting signals, constructing meaning. In this sense, consciousness is both a gift and a limitation. A gift because it creates beauty, warmth, and life from otherwise indifferent waves of light and sound. A limitation because it also means you never really know what the world is. You only know what your mind makes of it. Philosophers have long wrestled with this enigma. Immanuel Kant, for example, argued that we can never perceive the world as it is, what he called the thing in itself. Instead, we only experience the phenomena, the filtered reality shaped by our senses and mental frameworks. This aligns eerily with what modern neuroscience has confirmed. Your brain doesn't just receive the world, it predicts, interprets, and even fills in the gaps. When you look at an incomplete image or hear a broken melody, your mind automatically finishes it, creating coherence where there may be none. Reality, then, is as much imagination as it is observation. Consider optical illusions. When you see lines that bend where they don't, or patterns that appear to move though they remain still, you are witnessing the machinery of consciousness at work. The illusion is not in the picture, it is in you. Your perception betrays you. crafting a reality that feels certain and undeniable, but is in fact fabricated. And if small drawings on paper can so easily mislead us, what does that say about the larger reality we believe in every single day? Even time itself may be another illusion born of consciousness. Physicists suggest that time might not flow at all, that past, present, and future coexist in a block of reality. Yet you feel it as a river, always moving forward, carrying you along with its current. That sensation is your consciousness constructing a narrative, weaving events into a story so that life feels continuous. But strip away that narrative, and time as you know it dissolves into something far stranger, an eternal now. This is the unsettling core of perception. What feels real may not be real at all. The table you rest your hand on, the voice you hear across the room, the warmth of the sunlight, they are all interpretations, mental conjurings, fleeting sparks in the mind, and yet they feel solid, undeniable, immovable. Consciousness has the power not just to observe reality, but to create it, to trick itself into believing in worlds it has spun from threads of light and sound. In this sense, consciousness is a dream machine. Just as you create entire worlds while you sleep, mountains, oceans, people, conversations, so too does your mind create the waking world you navigate each day. The difference is not in the mechanism, but in the consistency. Dreams are fleeting, chaotic, hard to grasp. Waking life feels stable, repeatable, shared, but both are painted by the same brush, consciousness itself. And this leads to the haunting question: if everything you perceive is constructed within your mind, how can you be sure what is truly out there? Is there a reality beyond your perception, or is perception the only reality there ever was? Here we step deeper, ad high, into a zone where even physicists whisper carefully. If up until now we've spoken about how perception bends reality, here we must speak about how observation itself might sculpt it. This is where consciousness stops being just a screen for the movie and starts looking like the projector that casts it. In quantum physics, there is a principle that has haunted scientists for almost a century: the observer effect. It says that at the smallest scales, electrons, photons, quarks, things don't behave like neat little billiard balls. They exist as clouds of probability, waves of potential. They can be here, there, or everywhere at once. But the moment you measure them, the moment you look, the wave collapses into a single, definite outcome. In other words, the act of observation itself seems to decide what is real. Picture this. A single electron approaches a barrier with two slits. Left alone, it behaves like a wave, passing through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself, making a delicate pattern on the screen beyond, a fingerprint of its wave nature. But the instant you set up a detector to see which slit it goes through, the pattern vanishes. The electron chooses a path, acting like a particle instead. The experimenter's gaze, the observer's measuring device, has rewritten the script of reality. This is not metaphor. This is the most repeated and confirmed experiment in quantum physics, the double-slit experiment, and its implications are staggering. Without observation, reality at the quantum level exists only as possibility. With observation, possibility crystallizes into fact. Consciousness, or at least measurement, seems to be the switch that flips potential into actual. Now take a step back. The entire universe, including your body, your thoughts, the stars in the sky, is built from quantum particles. If those particles are only definite when measured, and if measurement itself is tied to some act of observation, then what is the world when no one is looking? Does it exist as an ocean of possibilities, a shimmering haze of maybes waiting for a mind to look upon it? Are we living not in a pre-existing world, but in a world being rendered moment by moment, like a cosmic video game that only loads the parts of the map the player walks into? The observer effect doesn't just stop at physics. It touches philosophy and even spirituality. Ancient mystics have said for millennia that the world arises with awareness, that consciousness is the ground from which all phenomena spring. In the Upanishads of India, there's a line: "As is your vision, so is creation." In some strains of Buddhism, reality is a mind stream, not an independent thing. And now, here we are with our most advanced science, finding hints that the universe might behave exactly as those mystics described. Think about this for a moment. If you're sitting in your room right now, the walls feel solid, the air feels still, the objects feel unmoving. But what if this is only because you are there to perceive them? What if, as you turn your head, reality crystallizes just a hair's breadth ahead of your gaze, always one moment from being born? Like an artist's brush sketching the world in real time, your awareness may be conjuring solidity from the unformed. And if observation does shape reality, then what of shared reality? You and I, billions of minds perceiving together. Do we collectively weave a shared fabric? Perhaps each conscious observer is a node, and together, our awareness creates the tapestry of the world. This could explain why the universe seems consistent, even though it is built from probabilities. The consensus of countless observations acts like a giant loom, weaving the potential into a stable pattern. It also means something deeply personal. Your consciousness is not passive. Every time you focus, notice, choose, you're not just watching the play, you're influencing it. You are a participant in the creative act of the cosmos. The observer effect, then, is not some abstract scientific quirk. It is a mirror showing you your own hidden power. You are not a speck floating in a void. You are the void learning to look at itself, and in looking, to become something. Yet there's a paradox here. If consciousness collapses the wave of potential into reality, what collapses the wave when no one's looking? Did the universe exist before life evolved? Most physicists say yes, because measurement can be done by any interaction, not just by human minds. A photon striking an atom counts as observation enough to create an outcome. But still, the deeper question lingers. Why is the universe measurable at all? Why is there something rather than nothing? And why does this something seem to require, at its core, a moment of observation to take shape? Perhaps the line between observer and observed is not real. Perhaps the universe is consciousness, and consciousness is the universe, folded upon itself. In this view, everything, every particle, every field, every star, is a kind of awareness. When one part measures another, it is the cosmos looking at itself, and you, as a conscious being, are a focal point of that self-awareness, a lens through which the infinite knows itself in a unique way. This is the mind-bending possibility. Reality is not a stage upon which consciousness appears. Reality is consciousness appearing as a stage. What we call the observer effect may be the faint echo of a larger truth, that the universe is a living, perceiving whole, and you are not in it, but of it. Now imagine what this means for your daily life. When you sit quietly and look at a tree, it isn't just you looking at a tree. It is the universe, through the form called you, looking at the universe, through the form called tree. The observer and the observed, locked in a dance so intimate that the two dissolve into one act of awareness. The observer effect is not just physics, it is poetry, it is mystery, it is a hint of our cosmic identity. Pause and imagine this. Before stars ignited, before galaxies spun their luminous arms, before even time seemed to flow, could there have been awareness? A kind of raw, formless consciousness waiting in the void, like a silent witness before the first act of creation. This is where our script leads us, to the radical idea that consciousness is not born from the universe, but the universe is born within consciousness. Modern science still leans on the materialist view, that the brain, through its complex networks of neurons, generates awareness. Billions of firing patterns combine to produce the feeling of I am. But what if this is reversed? What if the brain is not the generator but the receiver, the tuning instrument? Like a radio, the brain might pick up a frequency already filling the cosmos, the frequency of consciousness itself. This would mean that awareness is not trapped inside your skull, but something vast, universal and ancient, flowing through you as easily as air flows through lungs. This flips the script entirely. If matter gives rise to mind, then consciousness is an accident, a spark on the surface of an otherwise indifferent universe. But if mind gives rise to matter, then the world you see, trees, oceans, planets, stars, are shapes formed in consciousness, appearing and disappearing like waves on the surface of a deeper ocean. Consider dreams again. In a dream, entire landscapes spring forth effortlessly. Mountains rise, Oceans stretch, faces appear with voices and histories. Yet where do they come from? They arise within your consciousness, painted by nothing but the mind's own power. When you wake, you call them unreal. But who is to say waking life is not another dream, more consistent and long-lasting, yet still woven by the same loom of awareness? This is not just poetic speculation. The great mathematician John Wheeler once suggested a concept called participatory anthropic principle, where observers are necessary to bring the universe into being. In his famous words, it from bit, meaning that what we call physical reality, it, arises from acts of observation, the answering of questions, the information exchanged in consciousness. Bit, the universe, in this vision, is not a machine grinding on its own, but a conversation between awareness and possibility. And think, too, of how physics continues to surprise us. When scientists look for a fundamental building block of reality, they keep finding smaller and stranger things. Particles that are waves, waves that are fields, fields that are probabilities. The deeper they look, the less solid the universe becomes. At the core, it seems less like matter and more like math, less like substance and more like information. And what is information without a mind to perceive it? Can there be bits without awareness to read them? So perhaps consciousness is the soil, and reality is the flower. Without the soil, nothing grows. Without consciousness, no universe blooms. This doesn't mean that your personal consciousness, bound to your body, created galaxies. Rather, it points toward a deeper consciousness, the source behind all sources, expressing itself as the cosmos. Call it the cosmic mind, the universal awareness, the dreamer of dreams. Now reflect on what this implies about you. If consciousness is fundamental, then you are not a small accident in a cold universe. You are consciousness itself, wearing the mask of a human being. The same awareness that watches a sunset through your eyes is the awareness that watched stars ignite billions of years ago. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. This realization changes everything. The solidity of matter, the certainty of time, the stability of space, all of it becomes like a vast theater, a stage set. And behind the curtain, the true actor is consciousness itself, playing all the roles, painting all the scenery, telling all the stories. To wake up to this truth is to recognize that the borders between self and cosmos are far thinner than we ever imagined. And so we return to the question pulsing at the heart of this script. If consciousness is the foundation, what is reality? Is it a dream spun by the cosmic mind? A play written to be experienced? A dance meant to be lived? And if so, what does it mean for you, the dream character who is also the dreamer? If reality is a dream of consciousness, then your daily life is not just a sequence of random events. It's a living narrative being written in real time, with you as both protagonist and co-author. Each conversation, each glance, each breath is part of a script, but also an act of creation. This is not metaphor. It is the direct consequence of the view we've been unfolding. If you are consciousness experiencing itself, then every mundane moment is a page in the universe's diary. Imagine waking up in the morning. You open your eyes and the room assembles itself. Walls, ceiling, light pouring in through a window. You take for granted that all this is just there. But from the perspective of our script, this is a miracle happening at lightning speed. Your mind is rendering reality in real time. Your senses translating invisible vibrations into colors, shapes, textures. You are literally conjuring the world as you look at it. You are the dreamer remembering the dream. This also means the boundaries you draw between me and not me, between inside and outside, are thinner than you think. The sound of rain on the roof, the smell of coffee, the warmth of sunlight on your hands. These are not things out there, but experiences arising in here, in awareness. In the cosmic dream view, the rain is not outside you. It is a movement inside the vast field of consciousness you truly are. This is why mystics say things like, "I am the sky," or "I am the river." They are not speaking in riddles. They are pointing to this simple fact. All experience appears in the same field of awareness, and that awareness is what you are. Now think about the choices you make. If consciousness is foundational, then your attention is not trivial. Where you place it shapes your lived reality. Focus on fear, and the dream shows you reasons to be afraid. Focus on gratitude, and the dream opens its beauty to you. This is not a law of attraction gimmick. It is the natural logic of consciousness. Attention is the brushstroke with which you paint your world. Even suffering looks different through this lens. When painful events arise, instead of feeling like a helpless victim of a cruel universe, you begin to see them as movements within the dream of awareness, experiences to be held and understood, not just endured. This doesn't make pain disappear, but it changes your relationship to it. You start to realize that nothing you experience can touch what you truly are. The vast, silent witness in which all experiences rise and fall. This also reframes how you relate to other people. In the ordinary view, everyone is separate, locked in their own heads. But in the cosmic dream view, every person you meet is another expression of the same consciousness looking out through different eyes. The cashier at the store, the stranger on the street, your closest friend, all are waves on the same ocean. When you speak to them, you are consciousness talking to itself. Compassion and empathy stop being moral duties and become natural responses to recognizing yourself in another form. Here's where it becomes very practical. When you meditate, when you pause, when you become aware of awareness itself, you step back from the character in the dream and glimpse the dreamer. This is why ancient practices like mindfulness, self-inquiry, and stillness have always been tools for awakening. They don't give you a new belief. They give you a direct taste of the reality behind the play. The consciousness that never changes even as worlds appear and disappear within it. And from this place, daily life becomes radiant. The sound of a bird outside your window is no longer just a bird. It's the universe singing to itself. The warmth of tea in your hands is no longer just tea. It's the intimacy of experience arising in the now. Even your own thoughts, once a noisy burden, begin to feel like weather passing through a vast, open sky, the sky of your awareness. In this way, the idea of the cosmic dream stops being abstract philosophy and becomes a living practice. Each time you remember, I am the dreamer, not just the dream, you loosen the grip of fear, stress, and division. You begin to act from a deeper intelligence, one that isn't separate from life, but is life itself. You find that creativity flows more easily, relationships deepen, and your sense of meaning expands because you are no longer living as a small self struggling in a big world. You are living as the world expressing itself as you, and yet the paradox remains. Even as you glimpse the dreamer, you continue to play your role. You still go to work, still speak, still plan, still create, but everything feels lighter, freer. The play goes on, but now you know it's a play. And knowing this, you can dance in it with more grace, more joy, more courage. This is where our script has led us in 2.7, not only to the strange edges of physics and philosophy, but into the intimate core of your own life. The mind-bending reality of consciousness itself is not only about quarks and photons. It's about you, here, now, breathing, perceiving, choosing, creating. It's about realizing that you are not a spectator at the edge of the universe, but the universe itself, awake and aware. Think of time the way you think of a river. You stand on its bank, watching water flow past. Yesterday, rushing downstream into memory. Tomorrow, drifting toward you from upstream. But what if the river is not flowing at all? What if every droplet of water, every moment, already exists, still, eternal, unchanging? And it is consciousness that creates the illusion of motion, of flow. Many physicists now suspect this may be true. The universe may be a block where past, present, and future coexist. Yet to you, consciousness stitches them into a moving film, frame by frame, so you can live inside a story. Now think of memory. You believe memory is a storage vault inside your brain, a dusty archive where experiences are filed away and later pulled out. But memory is less like an archive and more like a painter. Every time you remember something, your mind repaints it, edits it, changes its colors. The memory you hold today is not the same one you formed yesterday. It has been reshaped by the brush of consciousness, made to fit the narrative you now tell yourself. This means that the past itself is not fixed, but continuously rewritten in your awareness. Reality, in this sense, is retroactive. bending backwards as well as forwards. And then there is identity, the most fragile illusion of all. You wake each morning with a name, a history, a story about who you are. You say, I am this person, born here, shaped by these experiences. But what is this I made of? Look closely, and it dissolves. It is built from threads of memory, which, as we've seen, are mutable, from habits of thought which change constantly, from the body, which is not the same body it was 7 years ago, every cell having been replaced. The self is not a solid thing, but a construct of consciousness, a character in the dream. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you exist more deeply than the story you tell yourself. Beneath the shifting character, there is the screen upon which the story is projected. Pure awareness, unchanged as the tale unfolds. The same awareness that noticed your first childhood memory is noticing these words right now. Everything else has changed. Body, mind, circumstances. But awareness itself has not. It is timeless. Notice how radical this is. If time is an illusion woven by consciousness, if memory is a painter, if identity is a character, then who are you, truly? You are not the character, not the memories, not the ticking clock. You are the stage itself, timeless, spacious, silent, upon which all of this arises. You are the dreamer, not the dream. This is why practices of self-inquiry, the simple question, who am I, cut so deep. Because when you strip away everything that changes, thoughts, emotions, body, memories, you arrive at the one thing that doesn't, the awareness in which they all appear. And this awareness is not personal. It is not yours. It is the same awareness that looks out from every pair of eyes, the same awareness in which stars shine and galaxies spin. And now, think of what this means for time itself. If consciousness is timeless, then the fear of running out of time begins to lose its grip. Yes, the character you play in this dream will end. The story will close, but the awareness in which the story unfolded was never born and will never die. It was here before the first scene, and it will remain after the curtain falls. This is why so many who have glimpsed this truth describe an immense peace, a freedom from the tyranny of the ticking clock. From this perspective, your memories are not burdens of the past, nor are your plans chains of the future. They are waves arising in the vast present, the eternal now of consciousness. And the you that holds them is not a fragile thread stretched across decades, but the silent witness in which decades rise and dissolve like morning mist. So when you feel trapped by your past, remember, it is only a story being repainted each time you think of it. When you feel anxious about the future, remember, the future does not exist except as a thought arising now. And when you feel lost in your own identity, remember, the I you cling to is just another mask worn by awareness. Beneath it, you are free, boundless, eternal. This is the mind-bending truth of consciousness as it weaves time, memory, and identity. It shows you that reality is not a linear march from birth to death, but a timeless unfolding in which all things appear and disappear. And at the center, or rather, at the foundation, is you, not the character, but the awareness itself. The awakening of forgotten memories. The room where Ilara sat had not changed. The same dripping faucet, the same lingering hum that filled the silence like a heartbeat behind the walls. But her perception of it was shifting, unfurling, as if she had peeled away one more layer of the illusion. It was no longer simply a room. It was a stage where memory and present time overlapped, where every detail seemed to echo with things she had not yet remembered, but had always known. She felt it first as a stirring in the back of her mind, like the whisper of a word she couldn't quite catch. A name maybe, a face, a corridor lined with windows. And then, sharper, flashes of movement, footsteps in the dark, the shimmer of polished marble beneath soft amber light. Her pulse quickened. These weren't dreams anymore. These were fragments of something buried so deep it had grown roots in her bones. Her hands trembled as she touched the table's wooden surface. For an instant, the grain shifted beneath her fingertips. Not wood at all, but stone, cold and carved with markings she could not read. A glyph, curling inward like a spiral, glowed faintly before fading back into lifeless oak. She pulled her hand away, breath sharp and uneven. The hum of the room deepened, like a choir murmuring from behind thick walls, and suddenly her head was full of voices, distant but insistent. She couldn't tell if they were speaking in unison or colliding against one another, but they carried tones of warning, of lament, of something ancient clawing its way back into existence. And then came the surge. A wave of sensation, crashing through her chest, unraveling the careful stitches that had held her mind together all this time. She staggered, clutching her temples, as images burst behind her eyes, cities lit by pale suns, towers spiraling into clouded skies, figures cloaked in silence standing at the edge of an abyss that mirrored the cosmos itself. None of this belonged to her, and yet it was hers entirely. Memories she had not lived flooded her, memories of a place where time bent differently, where mirrors were not objects but gateways, where walls themselves breathed and watched. She saw herself, though not herself, walking through corridors lit by trembling light, her reflection trailing slightly behind, always a heartbeat out of sync. And with it came a terrible realization. She had been here before. This was not discovery. This was return. Her lips parted, trying to form words, but only air left her throat. She pressed her palm against the wall, and again it shifted, briefly transparent. On the other side, she thought she saw movement, a shadow that leaned in close, its shape too familiar to be a stranger, too blurred to be known. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She understood now what the city wanted, what the mirror wanted. It wasn't content with showing her pieces of truth. It wanted her whole, every shard of memory, every forgotten thread. It was pulling back, weaving her into its endless fabric, and she knew, with a dread that tasted like ash on her tongue, that the more she remembered, the less she would belong to herself. The forgotten memories weren't forgotten at all. They had been waiting, patient, cunning, watching from just beyond the veil. Now they were awake. The shadow that carries her name. Alara's breath condensed into a fog as she leaned closer to the wall where the shadow had appeared. The hum of the room seemed to still, as though the air itself was holding back, waiting for her to act. The faint transparency shimmered again, rippling like a disturbed pond. And then the shadow stepped forward, closer, sharper, more defined than before. It was her, or at least, it wore her shape. The figure mirrored her posture with eerie precision, its hand rising when hers did, its head tilting in tandem. But the timing was off, just slightly, no more than a second, as though time itself had bent differently on the other side of the veil. That delay gnawed at her nerves, more disturbing than if the shadow had been completely alien. She pressed her palm harder against the wall. The figure did the same, but its touch came just after hers, and the echo of contact resonated through her bones. It was not glass, not stone, not anything she could name. It was as if her own skin had been stretched thin between realities. And this thing, the other Alara, was pushing back. A sound rose then, low and resonant, like 1,000 doors unlatching all at once. Her ears ached with it, her heart stuttered. The hum she had grown used to was gone, replaced by this deeper vibration that seemed to originate not from the room but from within her. The figure's face sharpened. Same eyes, same lips, same scar just beneath the brow, but its expression was wrong. Too still, too heavy with knowledge she did not yet possess. And when its mouth opened, it did not move in silence anymore. Alara. The voice was hers and not hers. Deeper, as though layered with countless versions of herself, all speaking in unison. The name stretched, reverberating, filling the space until it seemed every molecule in the air knew who she was. Her knees weakened. She stumbled back, but the shadow leaned forward, pressing harder against the barrier. "You do not remember," it said, the words dragging like chains through water. "But you must. The city remembers for you. The mirror only returns what was lost." Her throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to scream that these were hallucinations, tricks born of exhaustion and fear. But deep in her chest, beneath the racing of her pulse, she felt it, the recognition. The words were true. The city had always known her had always waited. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, the sound fragile against the weight of its echo. The figure tilted its head, and its eyes gleamed with a light not reflected from any source in the room. It was like looking into a well that had no bottom. "You," it said simply. The wall shivered violently, and cracks of light began to spread across its surface, crawling outward like veins of lightning. The room trembled. The faucet's drip froze mid-fall, suspended in the air as though time had been caught in the mirror's grip. Elara stumbled backward again, but the space was no longer obeying her movements. The floor elongated, stretching like liquid beneath her feet. The walls inhaled and exhaled. The ceiling bent downward, closer, as though pressing her into the shadow's gaze. The figure pushed once more, and this time, the barrier cracked open. A sliver of air spilled through, icy and damp, smelling faintly of rust and soil. Elara's heart skipped. For a fraction of a second, she thought she saw not herself, but countless silhouettes behind the shadow. All wearing her face, all watching her with blank, waiting eyes. Her reflection smiled, not cruelly, not kindly, but with inevitability, and as the fissure widened, Elara felt the truth like a blade sliding against her skin. The shadow was not crossing into her world. She was being pulled into it. The forgotten had found her, and it would not let her go. Crossing the threshold, the room no longer felt like a room. The walls bowed outward, as if expanding into corridors she could not see, and the faint fissure of light that split the barrier widened into a jagged seam. The shadow, her reflection, her double, her echo, pressed closer until it seemed only a thin veil of air separated them. Elara's breath grew shallow. She felt her ribs tighten, as though the city itself was squeezing her, urging her forward. Every instinct screamed to run, yet her legs would not obey. She was tethered, bound by threads too fine for the eye, pulled toward that opening with the inevitability of gravity. The fissure tore wider, and the hum returned, only now it was layered, fractured, a chorus of voices instead of a single vibration. Each voice carried her name, whispered, muttered, sighed. Some voices trembled with desperation, others spoke it with reverence, but all belonged to her. "Elara," they called again and again, as if chanting her into existence. She tried to resist. She dug her nails into the floor, dragging herself back, but the tiles warped under her touch, bending like wax in the sun. The cracks of light spread across them, glowing brighter with every second. The air thickened until her arms felt submerged in molasses. Her movements sluggish, powerless. Her reflection pressed its hand through the seam. For a moment the skin flickered like static, phasing between her hand and the shadows. Then, without warning, the fingers were real, cold, sharp, and familiar. The touch was unbearable, like being touched by herself from the inside out. She gasped, her body convulsing with a sensation she could not name. It wasn't pain, but it wasn't comfort either. It was recognition. The pull intensified. Her body leaned forward without consent, dragged by that grip. The air collapsed around her, rushing inward like water into a draining sink. The room groaned. The faucet clattered against porcelain. The suspended droplet finally fell, striking the sink with the sound of a bell tolling. And then she crossed. The moment her chest touched the seam, the world shattered. She fell through silence, through a cold so absolute it erased her breath, her heartbeat, her sense of up or down. For a fraction of forever, there was nothing but dark water pressing against her lungs, her ears, her very bones. Yet she was not drowning. She was being rewritten, and then, light, Elara landed on her knees, the ground beneath her hard and uneven, like cobblestone worn by centuries of forgotten feet. She gasped, her lungs burning as though she'd just surfaced from deep water. Around her stretched a city, but not the city she remembered. The buildings leaned impossibly, their windows too narrow, their shadows too long. Towers reached upward, not to the sky, but to a ceiling of shifting mist, a dome that pulsed faintly as if alive. The air was thick with whispers, familiar whispers. Her own voice repeated endlessly in countless tones, as though the entire city were made of her echoes. Her reflection stood before her, no longer a shadow, but flesh. The other Elara was whole, though her movements still lagged slightly. as though existing a breath behind her, and yet, when she smiled, there was nothing delayed about it. "Welcome back," the double said. Alara staggered to her feet, her pulse thundering in her ears. The city stretched beyond her in all directions, and every window seemed to watch her. Lanterns glowed with no flames. Streets curved where they should not, and in the far distance, a tower rose like a spine piercing the mist. The tower was alive. She could feel it, and it was calling her. Her double reached for her hand again, but this time, Alara pulled back, clutching her fingers to her chest. "What is this place?" she demanded, though her voice trembled, and her question felt small against the immensity of the city. The other Alara tilted her head, the same gesture mirrored and inverted. "It is what you forgot. It is what remembers you when you don't remember yourself." Alara turned slowly, her eyes scanning the streets. Shadows moved at the edges, figures slipping between alleys. Some looked like strangers, others, horrifyingly, looked like her. Hundreds of versions walking, waiting, watching. The whispers grew louder. Her name swelled into a chorus that pressed against her chest, until she could no longer tell if her heart was beating or if the city itself was beating through her. And there, in the silence between heartbeats, she realized the truth. This was not a city built for her. This was a city built from her. And now that she had crossed, it would not let her leave. And so, dear dreamer, we leave Alara standing in that impossible city, where the streets breathe her name, where shadows carry her face, and where every whisper reminds her that the forgotten does not stay forgotten forever. What lies beyond those twisted alleys? What secrets pulse within the living tower will remain for another night, when your mind drifts back to this story, searching for answers it both fears and craves. If you've wandered with me through these echoes of memory and shadow, then I invite you, gently, quietly, to linger a little longer. Share your thoughts, let your voice join the whispers. And if this journey has spoken to some part of you, hidden and waiting, then subscribe, and stay with us here in Mind Peace. Because this is only the beginning. The city watches, the mirror remembers, and consciousness itself is waiting. Now, close your eyes if you wish. Let the stillness carry you, and drift, softly, calmly, into the silence that connects us all. Until next time, may your thoughts be gentle and your dreams unforgettable.